Morning. I'm in the park this morning. Yeah, before I start my little quick walk, because I'm not a runner. So walking, is just as good for me. I walk fast though, so I'm like a brisk walker. Anyway, just thinking about today, because we're going into, Monday, right? Today's Sunday, so going into Monday, how a lot of times job descriptions really don't tell you the culture, right? You can get a lot of things from the job description as far as like your skill set, if it matches, if you match, like I always talk about, you want to match at least 70% of the job. And, you know, because you can also be, because you're going to be taught like the 30%, which is like how the company operates and all of that good stuff. And that's mainly for perm roles. I would say for freelance roles, you really want to match about 80% of the job, right? Because you're expected to hit the ground running. But this video is really not about that. This is more about like the culture, right? So after you've gotten a job or you landed the freelance gig for maybe the summer, short term or whatever it is, or maybe, it's something that it's long term. It might be a permanent role. And the permanent role just means it's long in duration, right? Like it can easily go to 1 or 2 years. Sometimes it's a position that the company has that role is known to be a permanent role. So they have uh, there's no game plan for you to get converted, right? Because normal freelance can be temp to perm, which is you come in at a high salary hourly rate, and then you get converted into a permanent role. And, they may take 5,000 off the top or off the bottom. Just depends on like what the package is and what they offering you. But anyway, this video is more about like, but that does not tell you the culture. And I say that because a lot of times, especially with someone myself as, a long-term, freelancer or, just knowing the freelance market and especially in New York City and how you really cannot tell that culture. And you can be typically in a position that's like client side, meaning, you're getting off, it's normal hours. It's like 9 to 5. You're getting off at, 9 to 5, specific hours. And then not Pacific hours, EST hours. Sorry. Pacific is Cali. Well, I'm in New York City, so that's what I'm talking to. So yeah. Yeah, so it's normally 9 to 5 culture and right, you get off this and this and that, but you don't tell the culture of the atmosphere of their office, right? Meaning you could be in a company and like their culture is they have a lot of freelancers. Like a good company, normally it will have, like your permanent people. They should definitely have their permanent hires, but then you'll have like certain times of the year, like now it's summertime. So summertime is definitely freelance culture, right? Because people are going out on leave. They're like maternity leave. For some reason, a lot of women's due dates are like summer or spring, happens into the summer, right? Because you've been shacking up in the fall or whatever you've been doing in the fall, that kind of thing. But anyway, it just happens, like, right? Like birth rate is higher in June. I think June has a lot of birth rate, people born in June, and a lot of twins are born in June also. That kind of thing. Like my daughter was born in June as well. But things like that. I just say that to say like it's more people going on vacation. So you may be brought in for like a 2 week role or like a month role to like cover somebody for 6 weeks. They're going on vacation, or they are, a lot of companies now are having the sabbatical in place just because of, the way people are like leaving. And they're leaving companies to take a sabbatical, and that's totally normal now. If you get an interview from a recruiter and they're like, oh, why do you have this gap in your resume, like for 6 months or 8 months? You could totally say, I took a sabbatical, and you don't need a like big reason, but again, this is about the culture. So like I said, if you're starting a role or you're freelancing in the summertime, that's different if there's a lot of freelancers because you're kind of brought in, like I said, to cover something specific. But if it's like normal time, you want a company that has like 50% permanent. Most people are permanent. You want like 80% permanent and 20% freelance. And I mean that in a sense of like, is this role that you're freelancing it, is this role like a high turnover role? Like, are they running through freelancers like crazy, Like, are they known for that? Like, is that in the culture? Like, does the streets kind of know about, like, oh no, that company, I know them, girl, they rinse and repeat freelancers like no tomorrow. They end things on, you start on Monday, by Friday, your contract is already ended. The agency pulls the plug. Not really the agency, right? Because the agency kind of sometimes will fine the company for like pulling the plug before the duration time. But because it's so much client base, they'll still like, take the company's word for it, right? Because you are there. You are, the client is their first thing, right? You are there as a freelancer. So you are in a service role and you are expected to hit the ground running, but they don't tell you about the culture. Like I said, like maybe they have, now they're stuffing so many different jobs into a different job description. I know one place I was at, they wanted to have me like, collecting, and I'm like, I'm not a bill collector. Why am I? This is someone's role. Like, it's okay for you to add things to the scope of work that's needed, like as far as like financing and, tracking and how much, the client wants to spend, what's the amount of the project, what it's going to cost us. That's like normal cost. But when you're talking about chasing vendors and, freelancers emailing me, talk about they past due, it's like, girl, I'm not a bill collector. What you think this is? You know what I mean? I'm not a bill collector. Like, that is someone's role. That role is for someone that's like a budget coordinator. There are people that they love numbers. They have like an accounting background, or they may be like using this role because their degree is in accounting, and then maybe they're like using that role to like, get some credits to look good on their, like they're building their resume per se. So just things like that. Or it's like, like I said, they have a high turnover. Or if you start in a company and like, say you're a new person in the marketing department, because my background is marketing, and it's like everyone, the last 5 people are also, or all perm, were hired recently. And it's like, okay, and if we all have basically like the same start date, and I'm not talking about like tech companies like Amazon, Google, where like you'll have people starting around the same time because there's like an orientation they want you to go through. That's kind of like normal. I'm talking about like regular companies, like a CPG company, finance companies, where like their culture is known to like spit out freelancers, use them, kind of abuse them. Like, they don't have a good freelance culture there, or perm culture. Like I said, you're coming in, you're perm, and you're in the role, and it's like everybody in your department is basically brand new. And they're not brand new because the company has, like the company is growing, where we've got new business now, we're growing. That's normal, and that's good. That's like a growth rate. And that's good to have, right? So it's like you're expanding. You always want to ask the job person, the interviewer, why is this role in, what's the reason for this role? Am I here because, if someone's mat leave or whatever, they have to kind of tell you that up front. But like, why is the role open? Was it a head count? What happened to the last person that was in the role? Those are the questions that you kind of want to ask, and it'll tell you the culture. And even if they don't give you a reasonable reason, once you get that offer and you accept it and you start the role, you can kind of do your own research and be like, wait a minute, why is everybody in here why do we all start in June? You know what I mean? Like, why do we all start in June and the company didn't get any new business? Now, there's a caveat to that, because like I said, because we're in like a lot of layoffs are still happening, right? Because of with AI and all that stuff. So you're going to see layoffs, but even though the layoffs are happening, like I told you guys, the work doesn't stop, right? So they'll bring in those contractors to kind of fill in that gap. And that's what freelancers is like, kind of like filling in the gap before they, either they have money to reopen that role on a permanent level, or maybe they just want a freelancer on there, or maybe you're freelancer through the summer and then September they're going to approve budgets to bring someone in. That's all typical normal. That's all typical freelance culture. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about more so like dysfunctional cultures where like freelancers are not treated good. Everybody in this department, like I said, we all started in June. Like, why is everyone start date June 2nd? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, why do we all have the same start date? So just things like that. Or it's like, is the person that you're reporting to, are they a micromanager? Are they like obsessed about your time? And like, of course, you do your due diligence. And especially if you are, like my background, I'm also a Christian. So it's like, you thrive in doing a good job. You thrive in, being respectable and being integral and all that good stuff. But it's like, you don't need a micromanager. You want managers that they kind of trust you, they trust you to do your job. They're not hovering over you. Those are the signs of like, sometimes that manager has trust issues or their culture has trust issues as well. But a lot of things you cannot change, but you just want to be aware of it. And since we are going back into, we are seeing a spike in, like I said, June is a lot of freelancers, a lot of freelance season is happening. People are taking vacations or people are taking family medical leave. So you may be called to like support a role for maybe like 7 months, 8 months, depending on how long that person's leave is. And if they don't have a medical problem, then maybe they're taking a sabbatical and they have enough time or tenure with their company where they can totally take a year sabbatical and like get paid for it, some of it, or use some of their vacation days, or maybe they've been saving their vacation days. But whatever it is, those are like typical normal things. I'm talking more so about, like I said, when you come in and like everybody got the same start date, or like we're all new. Even if you have like one, like say June 15th is like an orientation, but even if June 15th starts with orientation, everyone still has different offer dates, right? So that's normal too. Or like in my role, we had like a finance training, but it was like different people from, different parts of the world taking that same finance training, but we all didn't have the same start date. You know what I mean? So things like that, just I want you guys to also think about. Like, what is the culture? Because like I said, the job description does not tell you the culture. The job description does not tell you the boss is a micromanager. The job description does not tell you the environment is toxic. Like maybe they're working obsessively late, like maybe you were told it's 9 to 5 or 9 to 6-ish. And like every night you're like leaving at 8 p.m. or every night you're leaving later. And this can happen even in other industries. This is not only just for corporate America. This happens like companies or managers have unrealistic expectations and then want you to just jump on it. And it's like, you don't have to say, oh, I have to leave because, I have a child and I have to pick him up from the babysitter. Like, you can totally be a dog mom or a dog dad. And, maybe you have to walk your dog. You know what I mean? Like, that's normal. It's like, what the heck? That's normal. I mean, you are okay to have, work-life balance is a real thing and it's a true thing. And it's like, if you've been doing your job for a long time, like someone like myself, over, 10, 15 years in my profession, it's like you kind of know your role. Once you learn the lay of the land, once you learn the culture, you're learning the culture of the company. And this is what I'm talking about. When it's like toxic or like you can't tell a culture, but like your role is your role. You know what I mean? Like, your role. You don't need the micromanager. You don't need, someone staring at you. You don't need someone like looking at the clock because you went to lunch. It's like, come on, we children here. So it's like, you're not going to have time for that. And like I said, this is not just for corporate America. This is for, if you're freelancing as 1099, because if you're freelancing as 1099, you're still an independent contractor as well. However, you also want to look at that culture too, because you might not want to stay there. You know what I mean? Especially if you're dealing with multiple clients or it's a certain time of year. Like I said, June right now, summertime is people are, they have a couple of offers going on. Like they have a couple of companies, one role may be 6 months, one role may be 5 weeks. It just depends. And then, now with New York, a lot of this stuff is like hybrid, like hybrid is the new remote in New York. So it's like, getting a company that wants you to come 2 times a week into the office is kind of like luxury, as opposed to like, you got these banks and stuff. They want you coming in 4 days. And it's like, come on, pulling teeth. It's like, no, you're not trying to do that. So again, I wanted to take this time because like I said, we are in June. We are entering in heavy freelance season. And I want you guys to think about, like, even if you get that contract and even if you score that role, that you're not going to be able to tell that culture until you start. It's one of those things that you cannot know what you have until you have it. It's kind of like the dating phase, right? Like dating, everything could be good, right? Everyone's putting on their best effort, their best self. And then, but what is their marriage looking like? You know what I mean? Marriage is going to be like what you're doing, and the day-to-day things that you're doing are going to show up, and the day-to-day things that you're not doing is also going to show up, right? Because now you get comfortable. We all do. We're human. You get comfortable at that job. So you have to, think about that stuff as well, and look at your roles as like, okay, is this short term? Am I just doing this for the summer? Am I just using them as well? Like, am I just, making a couple of dollars because I want to, I'm going to, which is kind of what I'd be doing sometime. Like, I'm going to Paris in the fall, and, I want to make some money. I want to charge a really high rate for my services for 6 weeks, and I want to bank that money for my vacation, for my trip in Paris, and my shopping. I'm saying this hypothetically, but, don't be surprised if it happens, because I tend to speak things, But anyway, that is it. So I want you guys, like I said, have a great day. It's Sunday. I'm out here. I'm in the park doing something different. This is my 16th video, sweet 16. I'm excited about it. I started this channel as like something to do, because, I've already started like my, fashion vlog. I've been doing that for a while. I'm getting serious about it now because I just happened to check my analytics, and girl, people are clicking and reading my articles. They are reading my blog posts. I have over 1,000 people who have read my different blog posts in the past year. That is like a big deal. Even my, tea one, I did one where we took about tea on the town, and, we had a tea day or whatever in New York. And that one got like, I think it's almost near 500 views. So I am excited about that. So yeah, so I'm taking that seriously because, I went to the new blog is, I went to Beacon last week, and I'm calling it Chican. And so it's going to be a whole blog post. I'm going to stick it under here. I'm still working on it because you have to it's so much to do with a blog post. Like, you got to put the tags, you got to put the links. And since I'm a new blogger, so it's like getting used to everything. So it's taking me a little bit of time. Of course, I have other stuff going on, as well. So I'm dealing with that too. So yeah, bear with me, be patient, but my goal is to publish it by tonight and link it under this video as well. So this video is going to, I'll probably publish it later on today just because I'm outside. Like I said, I'm running around, taking in the air. It feels so great out here. I'm in Central Park. But yeah, that's it. Anyway, have a great one. Bye.